let's start with our business editor, Kalani Mbandra. He's with us. Elroy, Paulus here with us as well, for the Justice Coordinator at the Alternative Information and Development Centre. Gentlemen, good evening to you both. Thanks for joining us. Kalani, first, we've seen the pomp and some of the ceremony, some of the dresses at the State of the Nation address. Tomorrow is about keeping the promises that were made by the President.
Yes, it's a very difficult one, and I keep on saying this with each and every finance minister that comes through. I wouldn't want to be them at this particular point, because as much, for example, the basic income grant, the Presidential Economic Advisory Committee itself said we can't afford this as a country. What makes the President think that we can afford this, even this 350 rand relief grant? Many people are saying we need to think about creating an environment to make business thrive and not take out more money when it comes to more money for expenditure and not investments. And that's where our problem is. We need to, even when we borrow for investments. But as we sit right now, I will be, my head will be at the stakes for even saying what I'm saying now. And I know for people like the Alternative Information Centre, the Assembly of the Unemployed, they don't want to hear that. But realistically, where is the money going to come from? That's a big question from business.
Elroy, Paulus, your T-shirt says tax the rich. I think you have an idea of where it should come from.
Absolutely. I think the reality is that for many people, taxing the rich is overdue, long overdue. If people say there's no money in the budget, it must be counterposed with at what cost do you say that? The fiscus can find money. The problem is that the choices that has been made in terms of macroeconomic strategies, in terms of what we've heard in SONA, goes against the very grain of what is really needed. If you look at clinics being closed, people not getting their antiretrovirals, people not being able to access essential medicines, the desperate decrease in development indicators across provinces, then I'm very surprised that the President, the Minister of Finance and the Cabinet can think that more of the same is going to solve the problem. They've got their ladder against the wrong wall, and they're moving further and further away from people, and people are angry.
So people are angry. I mean, one development that we saw last year was because of the pandemic, there was a cut in education spending. And I mean, education spending in this country, in the matric results show that there'd been a process of levelling up. Very slow. Inequality in education is still massive, but there was evidence of that. When you stop doing that, when you stop levelling up in an education system, the consequences are going to be long term. In other words, it's children and our children's children that will bear the brunt of that.
Absolutely. So the gains made by the state through many programs will be rolled back, and the consequences of that is sometimes for me even unthinkable. Because if we think of the promises made in the Constitution, especially Section 27 rights, the right of access to education, to health, to social assistance, the things accomplished within the available resources, they say, and those things that government must spend money on. Differently, Section 28, issues around early childhood development and the rights of children. You are going to have a travesty of justice, of socio-economic justice, and political outfall by those who choose to believe a neoliberal framework as the panacea for everything.
I think everybody wants everybody to be richer and have more income. And if everybody doesn't want everybody to be richer and have more income, there's a problem with them, frankly. But the argument really is about how. Now, you can say neoliberal. In some ways, I know some people say, take that as an insult. I think that's perhaps why the word is used. But at the same time, we are, and the argument would go, you say tax the rich, that's fine. But the top rate of tax is around 45% in terms of income tax. Maybe we could have a different rate of VAT for richer people. I don't know how you could do that, certain goods perhaps. But wouldn't the argument go that at certain points you reach a Laffer curve, you get to a 50% taxation rate, you actually have responses from the rich as well, and they get involved in politics and they have money to organize. There could be a backlash against people who believe what you believe.
True. The real challenge then is what the Ministry of Finance, the Minister and the President wishes to balance. The backlash of investors and a very small group of people who have money and who are powerful, or their mandate to make the rights entrenched in the Constitution real and have people turn their back on them. Tomorrow there will be huge demonstrations. There will be hundreds of individuals and organizations from all across South Africa, through the Budget Justice Coalition, through unions, through people's health movements, who more and more, even though there's a need to understand how economics work, are just, like they say in my mother tongue, gatful.
Elroy, Paulus, thanks very much indeed for coming in. Do appreciate it. Economic Justice Coordinator at the Alternative Information and Development Centre, live here in Cape Town at Parliament with us, Kathy, ahead of that big event tomorrow from the budget. More coverage, of course, to come. Xolani and Bandra going absolutely nowhere as we prepare for tomorrow's budget. More to come from the city of Cape Town as we go into the evening. You can see, of course, the mountain there. And, of course, you can lead the illusions yourself. Will Enoch Godongwana take us closer or further away from what could be a fiscal cliff? Do stay with us.